Hey everyone, it's Bill Carmody. I am the marketing whisperer, and today on the show we have Chris Martinez. Hi, Chris. How you doing?
What's happening?
Great.
Great.
So Chris Martinez is the founder of Dude Agency, which gives digital agencies people, process, and education so they can take on more projects and scale profitably. Chris owned a digital agency for 3 years, and then in 2015, he moved all of the web design and developments to Tijuana, Mexico, and it was a total game changer for his agency. He quickly learned that Tijuana gives agencies all the benefits of outsourcing and none of the downside. In 2017, Chris launched Dude to provide the perfect outsourcing solution for digital agencies, which we'll talk about today. Today, Dude is working with digital agencies all over the US and Canada and are providing them with perfect outsourcing solutions for digital agencies. Best of all, Dude is helping digital agencies to scale, creating new technology jobs in Latin America and Asia. And little by little, Dude staff are changing the way that people perceive these regions. In 2021, Dude won a Golden Stevie Award from the American Business Association of Minority-Owned Businesses of the Year and a Silver Stevie Award for the most innovative companies under 100 employees. Chris was also a speaker at the 2021 Traffic and Conversion Summit. Welcome, Chris.
What's happening? Thank you for that intro. It's almost like I wrote it.
Exactly. Well, it's funny. I want to make sure that all the pertinent information that you want to share gets out right up front. And today, really what we're going to be focusing on is how to run remote teams successfully. And the thing that's most interesting for me, and I think what our audience really wants to hear is, given everything that's happened with COVID and how a lot of hybrid and forced working from remote locations has occurred, what are some of the best practices? What are some of the things that you have learned along the way since you've been doing this longer than most?
Yeah. I mean, where should I start? So, like we still have an office. We have a physical location, but in the past we've gone remote multiple times because the office is under construction or something happens and everybody's got to work from home. And so like we kind of had that infrastructure already set up prior to COVID. And then when we had to go into the lockdown times, it was a pretty smooth transition for us. And what was really interesting is that we ended up getting better when we went into COVID because, well, one, everybody knew that they just had to be better because it was a very like unnerving time. So our team members, they all stepped up their game, which was fantastic. But we tightened up our processes and we were able to see some of the holes in our processes as well. So honestly, like you tell me where you want me to start and then I can go from there because there's like a bunch of little things. And I don't know what your audience like, where you feel we should start, but I'm an open book. So anything you want me to say,
I would say that what hasn't changed in the last, well, probably since ever, but last decade for sure, has been the desire to do more with less. That has always constant been a drum in the marketing industry, and creating efficiency is really important. And having run two marketing agencies myself over 25 years, one of the things that I found is that after our cost of our people, the next most important or most expensive aspect of running an agency is your office location. And specifically your offices typically will take up the next biggest line item on your P&L. So this idea of remote work is very appealing. a lot of agency owners are thinking about not going back to their offices ever, and especially the mid-size agencies who are struggling with all that from the very beginning. So if you are thinking about helping consult with an agency that's thinking about staying virtual regardless of what happens in the future, what would be some of the top things you'd have them think about?
I think it always starts with the right people. So, there are some people that can never work remote. It's just not in their DNA, for lack of a better term. They have to be physically located in an office to be productive. Personality types, whatever. So the first thing you got to do is look at who you have on your team right now. Is it feasible for those people to be able to operate remote? And also, is your agency structured so that you can run kind of like what you were alluding to, which was like kind of like a productized service marketing agency? Because a lot of the times, one of the reasons why people love having everybody in that office is because they got like the water cooler talk and everybody can be creative and then just jump in together and do those things. You can still do that over like Slack and Zoom. It's just not the same. Now, I'm not a huge fan I 100% believe that those conversations are important. But if every single project that you bring in has to have that sort of conversation to be able to produce something for the client, that is not the type of agency that I'm a fan of. To me, you're essentially reinventing your business with every single client, which from a scalability standpoint, that doesn't really make sense. So you also kind of have to look at what type of agency are you operating? Are you operating an agency where you have a niche and you're ultimately helping the people within that niche with a similar solution over and over and over? Is it repeatable? So if that's the case, then 100% you can go remote, 100% remote if you want to. Yeah. Then we run a hybrid type of office. So we have a physical location. It's massive, and we don't even use a tenth of the space now. But I mean, we're going to keep it just because we got such a good price on the rent. So we have people come into the office, whenever they want during the week. Everybody has to be vaccinated to come into the office. And I think all of our staff are by now, but, it's nice to have it there from big meetings too. And then like new team members that we hire that are out of the city, because now we've expanded to all of Mexico as well as in South America, Asia as well. But for team members that are coming from out of the city, they have a place that they can work and hang out with the team and kind of get more ingrained in the culture and things like that. So getting back to the original question, like if you're starting out wanting to go remote, first you got to look at who you have and what type of agency you have. Mm-hmm. If you have a more productized type of agency, then 100% you can go remote. If you don't, then that's going to be your first bottleneck is, do you have to have that physical location where everybody comes in together? And the next thing is like, okay, so if you can go remote, do I need to have the big office space? Now, a lot of people are downsizing and they're having people come in like rotating days. So as we have it now, people can come in as many days of the week as they want. Most people come in 2 days a week. They have to come in on those days that they say. So we actually closed the office on Friday because lo and behold, nobody wants to come in on Fridays anymore, which is fine with me.
So just stop there for a second. What's the need that you see for coming in a few times a week? What is it that the team members want out of that experience?
They want to get out of the house. And this also depends on where you're hiring folks. So in Mexico, the culture is that until you get married, you live at home. So it's fun living with mom and dad, I'm assuming. But eventually they, every once in a while they want to get the hell out of there and they want to be around their peers and, just kind of have that connection, human connection with their coworkers. Do they want it every single day? No. Yeah.
So let's just take, for example, someone who wants to go full remote. I know a lot of agency CEOs are thinking about this right now and thinking about how would I do it? And one of the things that you bring up, though, is the cultural aspect, which is essentially like you can look for the type of person who is a self-starter and is going to motivate themselves, and they're going to not have to need that connection in the office to do their work. But once you've gotten past the individual, there's still a team mentality that often shows up in the work product. So how are you facilitating really powerful cultures with individuals that are doing what we're doing? We're coming over a Zoom call and connecting with this way virtually. How is that able to manifest in the same type of culture that you want to build into your agency?
Yeah. So I think I'm going to start big picture on that question because it's a great question. The first thing is that it has to come from the top. So I try and embody the responsibility that I expect to see out of every single team member. So me personally, like I'm always hitting deadlines. I'm always showing up when I say that I'm going to show up. I do everything that I say that I'm going to do, or at least I try to. So like all these things that I ask of the team members that I'm asking of them to do pretty much with no supervision, I am holding that same standard of accountability for myself, right? So they can't be like, well, Chris doesn't do it, right? That never happens. So that's the first, like from the top, you have to be that example, okay? Secondly, I have an amazing management team and they all buy in to the vision that we've set for the company and our big mission, right? We are here to change the world in terms of the way that people look at places like Latin America for design and development. Because when I started Dude, and I said that my team was in Tijuana, I would say that like 80% of the people would be like, oh, wow, I didn't even know they had internet down there. Like, that's kind of like the mindset that people have. Like, nobody even thinks that this is an option for talented designers and developers. And so we are changing that every single day with every single task that we do. So our leadership team 100% buys into that. So they back me up. Now, are they always as disciplined as me? No, like I'm over the top discipline. But they do have a very, very high standard of accountability, and they also help to bring forth the culture of the company. So that's the second part, is you got to have that strong management team that's going to help back you up and support the people. Now, going to the people that we hire, we have a very, very extensive and difficult hiring process. And one of the key, I mean, there's 7 steps basically. And we interview 42 people for every 1 person that we hire. Now, the reason why people don't make it through our hiring process is not because they don't have the technical skills. It's because they don't have those soft skills. We use an exam called a psychometric exam. It's very expensive in the United States. Well, in the big picture, it's not very expensive, but it's $300 for 1 test. It's a 3-hour test. And basically it's like an IQ test, values test. We test how they're going to perform related to the job position. And then also it can factor in your company culture as well. It's very, very intense. And what it does is it gives you a snapshot into their personality and reveals any red flags. So if they pass all these other tests and then they still pass the psychometric, we've got a really, really good shot of having a great candidate. Our psychometric is specifically tuned to our company culture and the things that we look for in team members. So your company culture is most likely going to be different than mine. So your people are going to be different than mine, which is totally okay.
And when you are in designing that aspect of the test, is this values, principles? What is it specifically you're elevating to highlight so that you're making sure that there's a good fit or a good match?
So we're looking, the test itself asks like multiple choice questions basically. And then it takes those multiple choice questions. And there's some crazy algorithm that they use. It takes those multiple choice questions and then it spits out like a range, and it says like 0 to 100. Where do they fall on this scale? Where do they fall on this scale? And then we already predetermine like these are this is the range that they need to be in for this particular position. So a web developer is going to be different than a designer. Designer is going to be different than both of them are going to be different than a manager or a team leader. QA person is going to be different. Marketing person is going to be different. So we have those things basically dialed in specifically for our business. And then we kind of got to that point because we looked at the team members that were really, really excelling in the company and that we wish they had, 1,000 more of. And then we had them take the psychometric test and kind of reverse engineer who we're looking for.
So when you think about successful remote team management, you're looking at your team members, you're looking at your discipline for yourself. What are some of the checks and balances that you put into place to?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to get to this. So you beat me to it. So there are essentially 3 meetings that I think that everybody needs to have every single week. One of them is every single day. The first one is the easiest one. We call it a daily deadline meeting. So one of the reasons why clients get angry at agencies is because they never do what they say they're going to do. They never hit the deadline, right? And there's multiple people involved with that. So it's not just, one person, it's usually a team involved. But if you have multiple projects going on, it's very easy to get lost in the day-to-day and forget about the big picture. So one thing that we do and that I encourage everybody to do is a daily deadline meeting. So all of our teams, they get together every morning, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, and they go through all of the open, we call them tickets. So for you guys, tasks, projects, whatever. And we literally go through every single team member. So the team leader runs the meeting and they go through every team member's tickets that they have open. They say this one, this one, this one. This is due this day. This is due this day. This is, are you on track to hit those deadlines? If they say yes, cool, move on to the next one. If they say no, I'm having a challenge, we wait until the very end of the meeting. And then we can talk about that. And whoever wants to stay on can help that person talk through how to solve that problem and get that project back on track. We do that every single day. Every team member, every day is on those calls. Obviously, one, it lets everybody know that what the deadlines are, so nobody ever forgets about a deadline. Two, it creates a culture of accountability, right? So like we are always talking about these things, and we are continuing to talk about how important hitting deadlines is for our clients. And depending on different personality types, some people like really struggle with hitting deadlines. Those people usually don't make it into the company, but in your company, you might have some people that really struggle with hitting deadlines. And then the third thing is like, if people don't show up to the meeting or whatever, or there's a level of disengagement on those meetings, you can see it really quickly. And then, so you can plan, oh, that person's probably going to quit, or we might have to let that person go, something like that. So that's the first thing, daily deadline meeting every single day. And then we do a weekly meeting, a stand-up meeting with me. I run that call, and we basically talk about what happened the previous week, any, like all the great things, any negative things that happen next week, and then what our goals are for this upcoming week. We call it the sandwich meeting. So that's the second meeting. And then I do another meeting, and that's just the leadership team, our leadership meeting every week, Monday, just moved to 2 p.m. now. And so we talk about the objectives, again, what went well, what our challenges were, and what our plans are for this upcoming week. We have scorecards. Every single leadership team member has a scorecard that they fill out. And so we just review the scorecards. Any meeting that goes longer than 30 minutes, you need to retool to make sure that it's faster. Like, you really shouldn't have a meeting that lasts longer than 15 minutes, in my opinion. So like those daily deadline meetings, those are done in 15 minutes every single day. The sandwich meetings, usually, 15 minutes. And then the leadership meetings, sometimes they'll go longer, but if they are, I let everybody know. And if I absolutely want those meetings done in 15 minutes, then I tell everybody ahead of time, like, hey, 15-minute timeline, that's it. And then we're in and out very, very quickly. So those are the 3 essential meetings that I would highly recommend that everybody do.
And that is perfectly fine to do all of those virtually. There's no reason to be in person for any of those meetings. You can actually do it the way you need.
Yeah, we started doing these remotely.
Yeah.
So, and the majority of our team members on the Monday sandwich meetings and then the daily deadline meetings, they're all around the world. So everybody logs in via Zoom, and we do those meetings remotely.
What do you find to be the biggest challenge with managing teams remotely?
I mean, we have so many checks and balances, and we have such good people.
Yeah.
The only thing that we've been struggling with is people getting recruited. So we raise them so well that they're starting to get recruited by other agencies, which is fine. Like, I want those people to go and have an amazing career somewhere else. I'm proud that we're a part of their story. But honestly, like, from what I see, those are if you do those little things and you do them extremely well, you will not have many problems. It starts with the individual, though. So that's part of the biggest problem, is that agencies are horrible at recruiting. We typically will just look at somebody and like, oh, their resume looks nice, their portfolio looks nice. And then we interview them, and it's like, oh yeah, they seem like a cool person. They remind me of, Joe Schmo. They remind me of myself. And I'm like, let's hire them. And like, I talked to some guy the other day. He's like, every time you hire somebody, it's a crapshoot. I'm like, no, it's not. If it's a crapshoot, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
We are spot on with like 99% of the people that we recruit, because it's so unbelievably hard to get hired with us.
And I think that's the point about having 40 some odd candidates for every one position to be hired. To me, that's the lesson coming out of that, because I think a lot of agencies, when they're growing quickly, they want to throw bodies at the problem. And so from that perspective, it's exactly what you just described. It's like someone knows someone else that would be perfect for this position. They come in through a referral, so they're already trusting the referral. And rather than doing like a deep dive due diligence, the process that you've outlined, it's more a matter of some basic questions to find out that they seem like it would be a good cultural fit, and they seem to have the skills, and then let's go. And then what a lot of agencies end up doing is doing some sort of an independent contractor 90-day term to give them a chance of who they are. So now essentially they're on their best behavior for the first 3 months, trying to basically look as good as they can. And a lot of times you can sort of wash out in that place, but come in 6 months from now, that's when the real problems start to arise, and they're like, oh my God, we've invested so much time and energy into this person, and now we got to make a change. And it's really frustrating. And
you usually don't even see the true person in the interview process.
Right.
The best that person is ever going to perform is going to be in that interview.
Yeah.
And so, and what happens is that because of our own internal biases, and sometimes the desperation of having to like fulfill this project that's, that we just signed up, you start to overlook some of those red flags.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh yeah, they missed this deadline, on a test that we have, they missed the deadline by 15 minutes. It's not a big deal, right? That's a big deal.
Yeah.
If they're missing a deadline in the interview, 100% they're going to miss deadlines when you have client projects on the line and thousands of dollars, at stake. You cannot overlook those things.
Yeah, and I think you're hitting the other point too, is that I think most people, especially if they don't have an HR department or they don't have a process as rigorous as what you've just described, they're really looking to try to get as close to the fit as what they think they need. And in that position, they're actually hiring to what the person could be, not who that person is.
1000%.
And that's the miss. Like, I think you're capable of this, and they probably are. Right? I think everyone's capable of doing these things, but are you really going to live into the role we need you to play in this position?
What's the other trap that I hear agency owners, especially ones that are that have like teams that are starting to grow, is agency people, and I'm guilty of this myself. Like, we're looking for somebody, like they say, I just wish that I could replicate myself.
Yeah.
If I could replicate myself 100 times over, I'd be way bigger. Well, here's the reality, is that you are only recognizing your strengths, but you have a ton of weaknesses. Totally. So when you are looking to hire somebody, it's kind of pointless to replicate yourself, because you only want to focus on the things that you are a genius at. You really want to hire people to fill your weaknesses.
Totally.
If you're looking for people that are going to be the replica of you, you're ultimately bypassing the weakness, or you're hiring the weaknesses, and you're putting that person into a role and trying to have them fill a role where they're not actually going to be able to do the job. You need somebody to fill your weaknesses. So stop even looking for people that are like the replica of you. It's absolutely pointless, a giant waste of time. And you're just going to be disappointed every single time.
I love it.
That's something that I tell people all the time now.
It's a huge,
get that out of your head.
It's a huge fallacy. I mean, it's exactly what you're saying. And especially since I don't know what the current stats are. Back when I was really like chugging away, there was over almost 7,000 agencies in the United States alone. So like the number of agencies is huge. And I think that most of these agencies are in that same space you're describing, where they the owners go out there thinking that they're going to do this amazing job, and they try to replicate themselves. And then it's a fallacy, because then they're not addressing their own weaknesses. They're just trying to bolster their own strengths by other people that are exactly like them. And so God forbid you actually get the people that are exactly like you, because now you've just doubled down on all the things you do terribly.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
So Chris, I understand you also wrote a book. What's your book about?
Yes. So I wrote a book. I have it here. It's called Never Wear Pants Again. It's actually my third book. So I talk about how to build a remote team. Yeah. And I start off the book talking about some of the cultural challenges with having to go remote, and why some industries and some people struggle so much. And then I go into the very practical stuff of the things that we've done to build an amazing remote team and an amazing remote company culture. And basically, came up with the idea. We were probably, 3-4 months into COVID, and our team was thriving. I mean, just crushing it. People were happier than they've ever been. Company's been growing like crazy. We had more clients than ever before. And I decided, you know what? I have some expertise. I'm going to put it into a book, and, also help market dude. Yes. So, I mean, I love sharing the knowledge about this, because honestly, like, nobody ever talks about this stuff. This is the non-sexy part of running an agency. And pretty much when I go on podcasts or I speak, all I talk about is the non-sexy stuff. Like, I am the least sexy agency like speaker that's out there, because what I've found is that the difference between a very highly successful, profitable agency, where the agency owner isn't killing himself or herself trying to get these projects done, and the agency that's struggling, trying to break multiple 6 figures, 7 figures, has zero profit. The difference between those two is the non-sexy stuff. And everybody wants to talk about how to do, the new lead generation technique, or how to get new clients for yourself, or how to run these new ads. Like, I'm speaking next week at Traffic and Conversion Summit. And the whole conference is about traffic and conversions. And so they had me come on, and I'm like, I'm warning you guys, I'm going to talk about the non-sexy stuff. And they're like, honestly, like, that's what the seasoned people, like the people that are really, really like starting to grow, they want the non-sexy stuff. So that's all that I talk about. And that's what I pack into my book, that non-sexy stuff. That's going to be the real difference maker between you building a incredibly successful agency and one that is, struggling to get by.
Excellent. So where can they get it?
Amazon. You can go to Amazon, Never Wear Pants Again. You can also get a free copy, PDF copy, if you go to neverwearpantsagain.com. Just put in your email, and then we'll give you a copy of the book.
That's great, Chris. Excellent. Well, listen, I want to be respectful of your time. I know that you only do 15 minutes. We've already done almost 30. So we've doubled the time of your meetings. So thank you so
Anything
much.
for you, Bill.
Yeah. Well, Chris, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. And neverwearpantsagain.com is where they go to get the PDF version of the book if they want it. And then the physical copy, they go to Amazon for that. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome.
Anything else you want to share? Anything other website URLs, anything that would support?
I mean, you can always go to dudeagency.io. And then if you are going to be in San Diego, I don't know when this is going to be published, but if you are going to be in San Diego, hopefully you'll stop by and watch me speak on the 15th.
Awesome.
Otherwise, I'll be speaking at more events, moving forward.
All right. Chris, thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.